Hello everyone, welcome to Anna with Plants. My name is Anastasia and thank you for joining me for today's video. Can you believe that I filmed the first part of this video without realizing that my mic was off the whole time? So now that my mic is on and you can hear me, we are going to be talking about houseplant supplies, specifically the ones that I use to grow in this hobby. This is all personal preference, just putting that out there. And as I was compiling this list, which is 3 pages long, mind you, I realized one thing, which is it's gonna be a lot. And if you're a new beginner in this hobby, it's gonna be very overwhelming. To not dissuade you from entering this hobby, I am going to say that you definitely do not need all of the supplies that I use, and even growers that have been in this hobby for a while also don't use the supplies that I use. It is all personal preference, like I said, to alleviate some of the stress that a new beginner might feel watching probably this very lengthy video. I am gonna break down the 5 things that you need as a beginner grower right off the bat. One is some kind of substrate, a medium, soil, whatever have you, to put your plant into. Dealer's choice. Number 2 is some type of container to put said substrate into. 3rd is water. I hope that is self-explanatory. 4th is some type of light, whether that be sunlight or a grow light. That's going to be up to you and where you live and what kind of windows are in your home. And then 5 is fertilizer. Other than that, everything else you can kind of start collecting as you get deeper into the hobby, but really those are the only 5 things that you need in order to grow plants indoors. Now, with that out of the way, I hope that you guys enjoy, and please feel free to leave down what you guys use, or if you use something that you think I might like. Of course, I am all open to trying new things. Now, let's just get started. So we have containers up first, or plant pots. Sorry about Simba making weird sounds. I have a more quality, sturdy version, and I also have a cheaper option as well. Now, I have tried so many clear plant pots over the years, and I'm a little bit picky with which ones that I use, especially for my anthurium. So we're gonna go in order of size. So we're gonna start with the smallest pots that I use, and we're gonna start with the more sturdy options. So I love the octagonal ones. They are a little bit taller. And then I also love these 2.5-inch ones. These are really great for hoya. These are great also for cuttings of hoya, or maybe seedlings, any kind of very small plants that you want to keep in here. When you start to graduate up, I still like the octagonal tall ones. Again, great for anthurium as they continue to grow. You can just put more medium into the pot until they grow out of it, which is really great. And they come in a variety of sizes. So when they are in the toddler stage, the octagonal pots are my go-to for that. Now, once they get to a certain size and they start to size up, I don't like these tall, big octagonal pots. And let me tell you why. So I prefer the round tall pots. They are a lot alike, but these round ones don't flare up at the top. Hopefully you can see that. They just go straight up, whereas these get a lot wider at the top. It just annoys me. I feel like I have to put in more medium than I really need to in order to fill the plant pot up to the top, whereas these don't use as much medium, and you kind of get the same effect at the end of the day. So I love when anthurium get bigger to switch to these round tall ones. And what's really, really great is that they come in up to 11 inches. I will go ahead and link down below the store that has both the octagonal clear ones and these really big round clear ones. Her store is Quarter Acre Orchids. She has very fair prices. The only thing is the shipping cost is quite expensive, especially if you're buying really big pots like this. this. So I try to buy in bulk so I don't have to pay that fee very often. Honestly, her store is one of the only stores I found that carry really big clear pots, so I love that. She also has saucers, which perfectly fit as well in a variety of sizes. So I really love her store for that. I also linked to one other store that I found that has these clear round pots because they're a little bit tricky to find. It's based in Canada, but it does ship to the US. I haven't ordered from them, just PSA, but there's 2 sites that I found that have these pots available. Now let's talk about budget options. These can easily be found on Amazon, and these are a lot more translucent than these are. You can tell the difference. You can still see the roots through both of these, and that's why I'm just a clear pot kind of gal. I like to see my roots. Other growers like the more opaque pots. You know, it's really up to you. So these come in 3 sizes. There is a 4-inch, there is a 6-inch, and then this is the 1 gallon. I think it's almost 8 inches. And this is the biggest clear pot in this kind of material that I found. And it does the same job. It is more flexible than these are. Obviously, you can't really squeeze these quite as much as you can squeeze these ones, but the job is done. They do the same job. They will hold your plant and your substrate no problem. Those are my clear pots. Now let's move on to self-watering for everyone that loves passive hydro. So the most common self-watering, especially on Amazon, is the sets. So the sets come with a cache pot to hold the reservoir. It comes with some sort of net pot and often a cord to connect the net pot to the bottom of the cache pot. In my Amazon store, I have a variety of sizes. It goes anywhere, I think, from 4-inch to 7 inches. I do have quite a bit of these. I will say I like DIY now better than the sets, but if you're a beginner, it's probably a good place to start. It's just a little bit trickier to find like larger sizes of the sets that are not quite so expensive. What I like to do is I like to do my own DIY setups. So something like this. These cover pots I do like a lot. They are from an Etsy store. I'll go ahead and link it down below. It is a cover pot, same deal. Just holds the water. This is a 6-inch, and they also have 4 inches available in the store, and it holds your container. This is the clear, cheaper version. Same deal, except this is gonna make contact with the bottom, whereas there is a gap in between the bottom and the top. So, you know, just kind of your preference when it comes to that. In the store, have a DIY 8-inch self-watering container with an 8-inch net pot and a 1 gallon, I believe they're ice cream buckets that I have used and still use. I just encourage you guys to explore. There are times where you have the clear pots, so you just need to find a cover pot or a cache pot somewhere, and you can also make them really cute. So that is that for self-watering and clear pots. Next, we're moving on to substrate. I am currently using 2 main substrates for my plants. One is a tree fern fiber mix mixed with lechuza pon, or I also had a DIY pon that I made. I really don't use this one quite as much anymore. I will use it on my hoya. Do I have it? Yeah, okay. In this container, the pumice did get a little bit discolored, but you can kind of see the gist of it. So the pon just makes the tree fern fiber a little bit not as dense and compact. I tried to use this mix on my anthurium, and I was getting a lot of either dry rot or wet rot, and I couldn't seem to nail down my watering with this mixture. For Hoya, they kind of didn't care so much because Hoya can get quite dried out before they're watered, and that's why I still keep a lot of my Hoya in it. It's not like it's a bad mix or anything, it's just really not one that kind of suited my watering style, which is verging on more inconsistent watering, if I'm being honest. So that's why in the beginning of this year, I decided to transition basically all of my anthurium into this mix. that we are going to talk about, and I even have some Hoya in this mix and some Phylos, and they're all doing great. So really it can be a mix for multiple genera. This is what it looks like. Sorry, need to mix some more of the larger orchid bark, but hopefully you can kind of see there is Orchiata. This is the Power Plus grade. There is moss, and there is pumice as well. So I actually now have 2 different sizes of this mix that I've been using. So this is the size that I use for my anthurium and anything kind of with like larger roots, larger plants. I will use the Power Plus grade of Orchiata. And then this one, I can't remember if this is classic or power. I'm gonna have to look up my order and I will go ahead and put it on the screen, but this is a smaller particle size, same deal. It has a smaller grade of perlite as well. This is a course number 3 from Tuzula. Unfortunately, they don't have it anymore, which is quite sad because they actually graded their perlite, so there's no dust in it, which was really great. They also had it in 8 gallons for a really good price because I guess their supplier went out of business. So I'm gonna be savoring this perlite while I have it. The perlite in the larger, chunkier mix is bigger, so let me just show you for size comparison. This is a grade 3 and this is the perlite that I get on Amazon. I love using this size for Power Plus orchid bark, and this size is perfect for either Power or Classic. I did look at a grade 4, but this is like a grade in between 3 and 4. It's really perfect. I buy the orchid bark in bulk in 40-liter bags from Tuzula as well. I find that they have the best price because they don't charge for shipping, which is great. So the whole 40 liters is $90. That's the best price that I found because of no shipping. Then this is the specific moss that goes into the mix. So I have tried strands of moss, and that is what I tried in the beginning. Now that I'm upsizing plants that were in that mix compared to this one, which is moss petals, and let me show you what the difference is. Do you see that it's just the little strands coming off of, you know, that main moss fiber? They are super fine and they don't have that piece down the middle. And this is not like chopped up moss. This is just moss without that strand down the middle. It's a little bit different. That's just what I use. I find that the medium is a lot more consistent when you use the petals compared to just the moss pieces. You can also chop up the moss pieces. I just haven't tried that personally, but it is easier since a lot of people do have the strands compared to the petals. And this I get from EZ Botanicas or something like that, which has the best price. This one I got 4 gallons and it was $11 per gallon. That's the cheapest that I found. I don't want to go too into detail why I use this mix because I plan to make a whole video about what my results have been this year using this mix, and you know, go into more detail about what each component does and all of that. Now we're going to talk about water and fertilizer. So water is going to be super brief because I don't use fancy water. I just use tap water straight from the source. I don't use reverse osmosis. I don't use distilled. I used to buy distilled way back like a few years ago, but I just kind of got lazy, I guess, and then I just started using exclusively tap water, and I didn't really notice a difference in my plants, so that's just kind of what I continue to use. When I first started using tap water, I was a little bit wary, so I did use this product, which is a tap water conditioner. It just kind of dechlorinates and removes any of the heavy metals that are found in tap water. And I did that before I added my nutrients in the water. Honestly, I also stopped using this and I haven't seen a difference either between using it and not using it. So if you are worried about that kind of thing and using tap water, then maybe try this. Also, funny story about this product. So I ordered this back when we lived in our old place, and it was in like a college town, and the Amazon guy accidentally delivered it to the college condos across the street where a lot of the college kids were, and whoever got to the box opened it and stole a bunch of stuff from it. And then when we got home that day, there was just an open box with everything taken out except this. So whoever the thief was decided to take everything else that I ordered in the box except my water conditioner, because they were probably like, why am I ever gonna need this? Very random side story. Also, we have soft water in this house, which if you don't have soft water, total game changer when it comes to taking a shower. Highly recommend, like in terms of just how your hair feels and how much less product and soap you have to use. Total game changer. When I first read about this when we were moving to the house, basically the internet said because of the salt, the higher salt content in the water, your plants are not going to do well. And I was really worried. Honestly, we've been in this house for over a year, and using soft water to me has not shown any negative effects on my plants. So if you're worried about that, also I would not worry about that. That is just my water, plain tap water. Next, we are going to move on to my fertilizer. So if you're a beginner, I highly suggest using the fertilizer granules or like a powder for the NPK ratio, which is the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium content of it. Just use like a 10-10-10 or a 20-20-20, depending on how much you want to feed your plants. Really easy to start off the bat. I started using some kind of like powder formula. This nutrient water routine is a little bit more in depth, and I didn't used to have one this complicated until I got into anthuriums, because there's just a lot more nutrient deficiencies that can happen with that genus, I found. So I had to kind of add more products over the years to it, but now I feel like I have a really solid nutrient water, and I haven't really seen nutrient deficiency problems in my plants since then, which is great. Also, a lot of my hoya and anthurium have no problem flowering. So if you are open to trying this, then here is what I use. Before I get into the nutrients, let's talk about the container I use. I use a 4-gallon like camping jug. It's upstairs right now, and I really don't want to grab it because it's really heavy, because I just mixed up a batch this morning. So I'll go ahead and pop up a picture. I like it because you can take it on its side and it has a spout, which is nice. So I just put my watering can underneath it and go about my day and water. I know a lot of people use the pressurized large containers. Some of them are even a backpack, and they just go around and spray their plants. So that's an option too. I just really, something about using a watering can is just very nostalgic to me. It's like the one piece that I still keep from when I was a beginner plant enthusiast, using just a plain old watering can. This is just a piece that no matter how deep I get into this hobby, I just always want to use a watering can. So that's just me. You do what is most convenient to you. Going into nutrients, we're gonna go in order of what I add. So first is my monocylic acid. The specific one I get is Dune, and this you can't get off of Amazon, so I will link the site down below. And I have all of these labeled and in a wash bottle. These are 500 milliliter wash bottles that you see in laboratories. I got it as like a set. I also have one that just contains my nutrient water that I will just use to top up some plants in between watering or to water moss poles. These come in handy for that as well. And I just really love these because I don't want to dip something into the actual container of nutrients, because if you do it time and time again, I just feel like you're introducing some bacteria and microbes in it. It might not make a difference, but I just feel better keeping it in a bottle that I know can dispense it in a more hygienic fashion. And what I use to dispense into is a graduated cylinder. This one I use is just a plastic one. also on Amazon. This is a 10 milliliter one, and I just squeeze out whatever I need into this and pour it into my 4-liter water jug. And that's how I dispense all of my nutrients. The specific concentration of the monosylic acid I use is 1 milliliter per gallon. I'm not going to get too deep into every single nutrient and why I use it, because that's gonna make this video a million years long. I do have a video out that kind of goes into more detail. I will link it above. I kind of want to do an updated one since I did change up my solution. I think I filmed that last year, so not all of the products I'm showing you today is gonna be in that one. If you're interested in an updated nutrient water video, then let me know and I can film it. Okay, next we are going to be adding CalMag into the water. This specific brand I love for CalMag. This is Athena. This is their blended calcium magnesium solution, and what makes it a little bit different than your general CalMag solution is it has a little bit of nitrogen and iron in the solution, and this is the only part that I am going to go into a little bit more detail. This is my bottle of it that I have dispensed the product into. This product specifically works really well to fix any type of nutrient deficiencies that you see in your plant without you really even knowing what nutrient is off, because it kind of covers all of your bases in terms of what might be wrong or off in your plant or solution. So it's going to have the calcium, which is great if your leaves are coming out misshaped or not quite formed properly. It's going to have the magnesium, and magnesium, if you see very chlorotic leaves, and I'll go ahead and insert a picture of what I mean with a magnesium deficiency. It's usually the leaves on the bottom or the older leaves that are going to have that paleness, but also the darker vein kind of look that's more characteristic of a magnesium deficiency. And why that's important is because mag is actually a component of chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is what makes your plant green. It also has a little bit of nitrogen, so if your solution is lacking nitrogen, it just gives it a little bit of boost. For nitrogen deficiencies, you're going to have dull colored leaves, some yellowing leaves, and maybe your growth is not quite as fast. And it's also going to have a little bit of iron in there, and we don't really talk about iron deficiencies as much, I feel like, in the community, but when you have an iron deficiency in your plant, it's going to affect the newest leaves specifically, and you'll find that your new growth comes out really pale looking. It can be white or even translucent and maybe yellow. It just looks sick, any of the new growth coming out. So this product kind of takes care of all of those all in one go. I've really enjoyed adding this to my routine, and my concentration is 2.5 milliliters per gallon for that. Moving on to the foundation of my nutrient solution, it's going to be TPS1, which is a 3-in-1. This is just the easiest that I've found. I don't have to mix 3 solutions. I can just buy the one. What I mean by 3 is for nutrient systems, they either come in a 3-part or a 1-part. So the 3-part, the first part is going to be more nitrogen based. The next part is going to be more flowering. And then the third one is usually your micronutrients. Those are all individual, and you can kind of tailor it more and customize it more depending on if you want more growth or more flowers. This is a 3-in-1, which means that it all is blended together and you don't need to add 3 different nutrients. You just have the one. My concentration is 10 milliliters per gallon, so I do 40 in my entire jug. And I like this because not only is it a 3-in-1, which saves me time, this one also has beneficial bacteria and mycorrhizae, 4 different strains of myco. So I don't even have to add that to my solution. It's already in there, so this saves me so many steps. Next, we're gonna talk about my fulvic acid. For some reason, I didn't bring the bottle of this, but I do have it somewhere. This is Fulonic by Quad Neutro is the company. The specific concentration I use is 4 mils per gallon. So I used to use humic acid before I changed to fulvic acid. Humic acid, it works really well in soil and improves the quality of your soil. It also increases your root mass. So if you're interested in using that, that is also great. I recently switched to fulvic acid because fulvic acid really increases the nutrient absorption of your solution. You know, my shtick is if you're going through all this trouble, all this time, all this money to mix in all of the nutrients, then you might as well be maximizing the uptake of them. This is the only part of the video that I am going to get a little bit nerdy because I can get very, very nerdy about it. Fulvic acid is a chelator, and if you don't know what chelation is, all of your nutrients are hanging out in your solution, and they can be absorbed by the roots and the plant. But if you add a chelator to your solution, this fulvic acid will go ahead and bind onto your nutrient to then create a compound, and that compound instead is absorbed by the plant, and that increases that nutrients uptake. This specific product has a higher ionic charge, which just basically means, you know, the whole chemistry principle on how opposites attract. If this has a more positive charge, it's going to attract the more negative nutrients in your solution. That is going to be sulfur, nitrogen, and phosphorus, and will increase the uptake of them. Hopefully that didn't get too science nerdy on you. And the very last benefit of adding this is the pH of this is 4.4. It is an acid after all, and it brings down the overall pH of your solution, which plants generally need a little bit of a lower pH as well, so that helps too. Next, I add Super Thrive. This I add 1 milliliter per gallon, and this is a kelp extract. It smells horrible, which means your plant will probably like it, and it just adds a lot of those micronutrients in there. It's just a nice organic component. Next, we're going to talk about pH. This is pH down. I add about 1 mil per gallon of pH down to lower the pH of my solution a little bit. And speaking about pH, this is how I test pH. This is the General Hydroponics pH test indicator. You just pipette up a little bit of your solution into this little container, and then you drop a couple drops of this indicator, and then depending on the color of your solution, you can then determine a rough estimate of your pH. There are like pH meters out there. This is not a pH meter because I broke all of mine. The good ones are like about $100. I don't need like the exact accurate pH. This color indication is good enough for me. So pH testing your solution is totally up to you. I think that is one of the things that I got the most pushback in my passive hydro video is there's people that do not want a pH test. So that either hinders them from doing a nutrient solution or they just never test the pH of their solution. So I tend to test pH only when I make a change in a compound that I'm adding or a change in the concentration of a compound that I'm adding. Other than that, I just put the nutrients in and I mix it up. So I haven't tested my pH since maybe January when I did make those changes. In terms of where your pH wants to sit, you basically want it to be orange, is generally the pH where plants will take up the majority of the nutrients in your solution. Again, if you don't test and the pH of your solution ends up being more basic, it's not the end of the world. Your plant will still uptake the nutrients. It just won't uptake them as much as if you had corrected your pH. You do what you want with that information. So hopefully that didn't scare anyone off of making a nutrient solution. Really, if you just want to start super basic, then just buy a 3-in-1 and just use that, and I'm sure you'll see a difference just in using this alone. Let's talk about an additive that you might have heard of that I also use sometimes. This is Great White. There are a lot of products of mycorrhizae out there. I just don't use it quite so much anymore in my nutrient solution because I told you that TPS1 already has myco in it. This I might add when I do like a repot of a plant that might not have that many roots. It's just kind of good to give it a boost. You can either put it directly into the substrate or you can put it in some water to then water with. If you don't know what mycorrhizae is, I'm just gonna briefly recap it. It is a symbiotic fungi, and it basically forms this relationship with the plant roots where there's a lot of good nutrient exchange between the roots and the fungus. So that is going to help your plant because it's gonna help it grow better. It's gonna give it some resistance to stressors. It's gonna improve soil quality. It's gonna promote the branching of your roots, and overall you're gonna have a more robust root system. For me, using myco, I've been using it for so long that to me, it's definitely not harmful. And I can even see sometimes the myco in the pot. I'll go ahead and post up a picture of what it looks like. It's kind of cool to see that. Gives your roots a little bit of a boost when you need it. We're gonna move on to grow lights now. So I don't have any T5s that are not currently in use, but I do have a T8 to show you. This is a T8. The brand is Monios. I think that's how you say it. This is a little bit of a stronger grow light. The other grow lights that I love are the Barina T5s. I have so many of those. And recently I found out that like they're also magnetic, which is kind of cool. These are not. And in terms of the color that I get in both the T5s and T8s, I get yellow. It actually does not come off yellow. It comes off like a very natural color, really goes well with decor. It's easy on the eye. I don't like any kind of blue hues. It just irritates my eyeballs. I also use T10s, and those are the Barina T10s. They're like the really tall vertical ones. I have some of those that I love. I've just been using grow lights for basically since I started, especially they are needed in this house because I don't have great natural lighting in the house. It is like a bright house, don't get me wrong. We have a lot of like overhead lighting, but in terms of the windows, they are north facing, which for where I live is not great light. So that's why I just rely on grow lights in this house. The other thing that I use is these pucks by Sansi. I do have a code if you want to use it. It is a commission-based code, just FYI. I love these pucks because there's just adhesive and then you just, you know, like attach them underneath a shelf or where I have them in my alcoves. I've been using them for a couple months and I really love the hue of them. They are not too blue. They also come with a timer as well, so added bonus there. The company also does great bulbs. If you are in the market for grow bulbs, they are some of the best ones out there. Now, speaking about light, I think getting a light meter is really important if you want to know, especially when you get into anthurium that can kind of tolerate lower light. It's good to know where you can place your plants and how far away, because it's surprising to see even a couple inches back will be substantially different in terms of how much light your plant gets. The one I use, I'll go ahead and put up a picture here because I, for some reason, cannot find it. I know I have it. I know it's somewhere in the plant room. I just don't know where it is. Highly recommend a light meter. Next is timers for your grow lights. If you don't have your grow lights on timers, then you are missing out a really easy addition to this hobby that makes it a lot easier so you don't have to go around turning on all of your grow lights. They're all pre-programmed. The specific ones that I get are the Casa Wi-Fi plugs. This one I cannot recommend enough. I not only have these tiny plugins, I also have their grow strips. I also have their outdoor plugs as well. They have a really great app too. I love their app. I don't have any problems with it. And basically all of the grow lights in my house are timed to their app and using these plugs. This is funny because I don't think I've ever mentioned this on my channel before, but this is a thing that I use all the time. My voice is starting to go and I feel like I've been filming for forever. Now we're gonna go into all of the supplies I use for props and rehabs. Let's start off with Hoya stuff, why not? Let me show you where I'm keeping my Hoya props. This is a floral water tube, and as you can see, the Hoya roots really well in water in here, and it has a cap. I get a lot of questions, a lot of questions on what happens, how do you get this out after it roots. The one downside of this product, which might discourage some people from buying it, this is non-reusable. You do have to cut the top off, unfortunately, to get the roots out in one piece. However, if you ship Hoyas or you sell Hoyas, this is like a really great tool to use because at least you know for sure that your prop won't dry out in shipment. But if you want to prop it by water, this is a really easy, convenient method. Just be aware that this is non-reusable, which is unfortunate. Also, this is a cute little propagation station that I got from Bashma. Bashma is the owner of Your Happy Plant, and she has so many good plant supplies on her website. I will be talking about her later in the video and her store, but this is one of the things that she sells. This is where you can just place your Hoya tubes into and keep them all nice and upright, because before I was just placing them in like cups, clear cups, and that was not as cute as this station. Oh, and just really side note, this is my Hoya Lori Lynn, and I really do need to pot up all of these props, but look at this. She bloomed as she was propping. Is that not so cute? And also look at the fuzziness on the backs of this bloom. Are those flowers not so cute? I'm so sorry, this is not a Hoya video, but I just wanted to show you that because that is really awesome. This is the prop station. Another great tool if you want to root Hoya just in a medium and a container, which is honestly kind of what I want to start doing. I just want to take out the intermediary step of the water propping in the future and just put the Hoya prop into the substrate, give it high humidity, and that's it. So if you're going through that method, then having something like this is a strawberry fork. This is what it looks like. This is a clear one. This is on Bashma's website. And you basically just take your cutting, imagine this is in a container, and then it just anchors your cutting into the substrate so it doesn't pop out. This is really handy for large leaf Hoyas. Next is an additive you can add to the water if you're propping by water, or either to water your seedlings through. This is Clonex. If you've ever used their little plugs, this basically has kind of like the same nutrients that these plugs would have. It has all of the macro and the micronutrients in lower concentrations, so I have used this as nutrient water for props and seedlings. Another thing that I do if I am just lazy and I don't feel like grabbing this is just dilute my nutrient water half with water. In terms of rehabbing, so say you rotted out a plant or the root system is totally shot, you have to cut off all of the roots and restart, or some of the roots. This happened to my anthurium so much last year. Hoyas can basically root out in anything. So for Hoya, Monstera, Phylos, water propping is a really great way to go. However, for anthurium, I've tried a lot of different substrates to rehab them. And in my humble opinion, the best substrate is moss. I have not lost one anthurium rehabbing in moss compared to leca, fluval stratum, tree fern fiber, pon. Tried basically all of the substrates out there for rehabbing anthurium. I cannot suggest moss enough. My moss is upstairs, but I'll go ahead and put a picture of the one that I use. It is the Best Grow brand, and it's the premium New Zealand moss. Something about it, anthurium love, they will pop a new leaf within a week of you putting it in moss. It's just something that happens every single anthurium I've rehabbed, and you need a new leaf if your anthurium is looking busted. So I think that also helps it, and also root growth is really great in it if you haven't tried moss as a rehab substrate for your anthurium. Now, humidity. Humidity is one of those things that I really took for granted, I think, as a beginner grower. I was really on the side of the plants will have to adapt to my conditions, to my environment. I'm not gonna pull out all the stops and give them more humidity than I have naturally. And then I got into anthurium, and then my anthurium said, oh yeah, that was that. I really saw the benefits of giving tropical plants more humidity. Is that not wild? A wild concept, really, truly. I finally did buckle, and I swallowed my pride, and I got a grow tent, which I really never thought I would get a grow tent. But when you just get into especially expensive anthurium that are a little bit more finicky, a grow tent just makes your life so much easier. It makes your plants look so much better. I also have some Hoya in a grow tent, and they're doing fantastically well. Oh, Simba, you want to say hello? You want to say hello to the YouTube fam? Come up here. Oh my God, he's so big. Luca's here too. Hi, Simba. Say hello to everybody. Hello to everyone. He's like, please put me down, lady. I'm too big. Okay. Oh, he's so big. Okay. Sorry, you might hear some puppy pitter patter. So yes, my grow tent. It is the AC Infinity 844. It is a 4x4 foot grow tent. Had it for, I don't know, I think I set it up in February of this year. So far, all good. I also use their fan. It's like the Cloud Ray S6 fan. Again, I have all of the stuff that I use in my grow tent on my Amazon page. And then I also use their controller as well. If you want a recommendation for like a room humidifier or a humidifier to use in your grow tent, then the one from AC Infinity I heard is really good. Again, I personally haven't used it, but I always hear that is a good one to get. And that's that for anthurium. Let's get into humidity for Hoyas. So I do have this adorable prop box for my Hoya that are a little bit smaller. Hopefully the glare is not too bad, but here you guys go. And what this does is it just folds out like this and closes. So yeah, really cute. Oh, it is dripping all over me. So really cute. This specific prop box is from Bashma's website, Your Happy Plant. You can use clear shoe containers. I know people use that. I also use prop bins for my larger plants like my anthurium. The ones that I get are from IKEA. I think in terms of price, they have the more affordable prop boxes compared to the Amazon pricing. The one that I use is a really tall one that I will link below. And then the last thing for humidity is a hydrometer. And I just realized my humidity is quite low today. It's only 39%. Good way to go, especially if you grow anthurium. You kind of want to know what your ambient humidity is, especially if you give out plant advice. Giving people more info about your growing conditions really goes a long way, and I highly recommend getting one. And these are cheap, you know. Moving on to pest treatment. My number one suggestion for pest treatment is gonna be super simple. Everyone can do this without any supplies. And that is just a good old-fashioned shower. Just wash off your plants, wash off the leaves. You can add some soap in there if you're feeling fancy. I use like the Dawn Power Wash or Power Spray. That one, you can use Dr. Bronner's, whatever you want to use. Just rinse the pests off with some plain water that is going to take off the majority of the pests just mechanically. If you want to spot treat mealybugs in particular, this is what I use, which is just good old-fashioned isopropyl alcohol and a Q-tip. If you don't have an infestation, but you just see some on your plant, dip your Q-tip into alcohol. Alcohol works really well for that. Also, alternatively, if you have more than that, you can dilute the alcohol in a spray bottle and just spray down your plant. The next thing I use is hydrogen peroxide. This is more so of a root drench, or if you want to treat root rot, sorry, my dogs are awake now and they're playing with each other, so you might hear that in the background. If you get root rot and it's a really bad case of it, you can just put some hydrogen peroxide diluted in some water and then dip the root system or the plant into it. The hydrogen peroxide will begin to form bubbles, and that will basically kill off any bacteria or pathogens that are on that plant. Next, this is a good old-fashioned spray. I found that this is one of the only things that I can spray on anthurium emergent leaves and not have the leaves become all misshapen and crispy and dry. This is Pure Crop 1. I just dilute, and honestly, I eyeball it. I fill up this with a majority of water. I just put a couple of dashes of Pure Crop 1 in it, shake it up, and then I spray it. If I see mealy bugs, spider mites, this also can treat flat mites. I haven't had root mealies, but I heard as a soil drench, this is really good for root mealies as well. I have a smaller container of this. According to this, it can create 16 gallons of solution. So you don't really have to buy the huge expensive one if you don't want to. So I should also add that Pure Crop 1 is kind of like a brand name. If you want the generic name of this pest treatment, it is horticultural oil. So you can buy either this or that, and it's basically kind of the same thing. Now, if you have a widespread infestation of, say, thrips or mealybugs like I did, then spraying down my plants in an alcohol solution just did not cut it. The mealybugs were too bad and they just kept coming back. This is really the only thing that completely took care of that infestation. I also have a video and I'm pretty sure I showed how bad that was. So if you want to go through and watch it, all of those mealybugs are now gone, and I thank Bonide Systemic Granules for this. Now, the active ingredient is imidacloprid in this. It's an insecticide that mimics nicotine, and that is toxic to pests. Basically, what you do is you spray some granules into the soil and you water it through. The plant will uptake the imidacloprid, and whenever the insects will go on to feast your leaves, they will ingest some of it and it will kill them. That is how it works. There are some opinions on using this in terms of toxicity, and in some states you can't even buy it. In terms of toxicity to humans and pets, it is low. They use imidacloprid as a flea treatment for animals, so it is around us in other forms. I will say that if you do use it, just make sure where you put it, because it's not supposed to go outside. It is actually harmful to wildlife and birds and bees. Make sure that this stays indoors, and if you have any cast off water, just to dispose of it properly. But if you have a really bad infestation of mealybugs or thrips, I highly suggest this. One other thing about it before we move on is there have been some studies that have shown if you use this, then it might increase the population of spider mites. So you might have an outbreak of spider mites later. Just an FYI to that. Okay, last pest we're going to talk about is fungus gnats. And to a degree, the fungus gnats are just part of the hobby, but if you have a pretty bad outbreak of them and you feel yourself like going like this all the time, then this is what I use to take care of that. This is natural. This is a specific brand that I have. It is a powder of BTI, and BTI is a bacteria that basically targets the gnats when they are larvae, and they basically eat them. So you kind of need a two-pronged approach. So you use this in water. You can either put it in your nutrient water or just plain water to water it through to take care of the larva. However, for the adults that are flying around, I found that those traps work well too. They're either bright yellow or blue, and the gnats are attracted to that color, so they'll fly right onto the trap and get stuck. So that is what I use for fungus gnats. We're going to talk about all the ways that you can support your plant. The first thing is going to be trellises for Hoya. That is where Bashma and her website, Your Happy Plant, comes into this. She has so many trellises for Hoya. I'm just going to show you some of them. This is your traditional U-shaped trellis, and I like that hers has the little spikes at the end, which is super convenient. All of these trellises are clear too, which I love clear trellises. It kind of takes all of the attention to the plant and not the support that you have it in. More of an understated approach where the plant is the focus point. She also has these great ladder trellises, and she has various sizes of the ladder trellis. So I think this is one of the larger sizes, and then she has really small ones too. Love her ladder trellises. I initially started buying from her because she has really good prices on circle hoop trellises. This is a medium-sized one, but she has ones that are even bigger, and this is how they look like. So there is a plastic. I'm just gonna have to talk through them. I'm so sorry. They have a plastic film that you need to take off, and then her trellises look this clear. She also has some cute double hoop ones, some honeycomb ones. She has heart ones. There are so many different shapes that she has, so highly recommend you to check out her website, and I will also have my code for it down below. I do not earn commission on that code, just so you know. Also, to clip your Hoya tendril onto the trellis, there are plant clips that I use. These are your traditional clear ones, and then these are really cute, colorful ones, both on her website. Really awesome. Next, I want to talk about some pot extenders. I think I got this off of Etsy. I'm gonna have to link the Etsy shop down below, but same concept. You take off the film and you loop it around your anthurium stem and you fill it with soil, and it's just an extra inch or two off of the pot when you don't have time to repot something. Let's go on to moss poles. I don't have very many moss poles because it's just a little bit too high maintenance for me. I do have a few in my collection, and I've transitioned my moss poles into the front closing ones that I get from Bashma. So this is what they look like, all in the front. So you just open it up and you don't have to like cut open the pole or anything like that. It's just a really convenient approach to moss poles that I like a lot. And the last thing for plant supports is stakes. So you can either get the stake where it's just a clear acrylic stake to support your plant, and she also has the kind where you can kind of hold the stem into it so it doesn't lean over or something like that. If you have maybe alocasia or anthurium that are kind of, the leaves are going in all different directions, you can get one of these pinwheels where you basically put this onto a stake and then you just fold all of the petioles of the leaves into this, so it's a little bit more compact and not as splayed out. This is the last part. We're going to wrap this up because the dogs are going wild. This is the miscellaneous section, so things that didn't really quite fit into other parts, I'm just going to add here. Of course, you're going to need a potting mat. I will go ahead and link this specific one that I have down below. It's like a cute holographic one. I just don't want to bring it down because it's kind of dirty right now. Plant scissors of some kind. These are just the scissors that I've been using because I lost mine and I can't find them, but something that can cut your leaves or roots or whatever you need. Next is a soil scoop. Handy. Sometimes I use my hands. A scoop will kind of help keep your hands a little bit less dirty. And the last two things I use is Hugo's Amazing Tape. I initially saw this on Unplanned Parenthood or Charmaine's channel, and she uses it to either attach some petioles to a stake, or you can maybe attach a plant more securely to a moss pole. This is clear and really handy to have. The very last item I want to talk about, because my dogs are On another level right now is a label maker. I almost forgot this. I had to add it last minute. A label maker is super handy to have if you don't want a bunch of no ID anthurium or hoya that you have no idea what they are. You gotta get yourself one of these. If you guys have not noticed, I don't have plant labels that you stick into the soil because I prefer to just put the tape directly onto the plant pot because I just get annoyed with anthurium to have to move the plant label around the soil. So it's just easier to have it on the pot in my opinion, but you do what you feel is right. I wanna shout out this specific label maker. There are ones that you can use on your phone that have like an app and stuff. For me, I just think it's an extra step. Sometimes I don't have my phone nearby me when I'm repotting or doing something. So this is just easier to have because it has the keyboard right there on it. What I love about this specific one is this is a thermal transfer label printer and not a direct transfer. So the difference is thermal transfer is more resistant to sunlight compared to a direct transfer. Any of your labels on your packages is a thermal transfer printer, and that's because your packages are out in the sun and all of that, and it just helps protect against the ink degrading over time. And I have had some plants that have come to me with a direct transfer label, and I know it is one over time because all the ink is gone and I don't know what that plant is anymore. And I found that anything that has this, still you can read it. So if you have grow lights really close to your labels, then I suggest you finding a thermal transfer label maker. If you have made it to the end, I want to commend you. Bring it in for a high five. We have made this marathon together, but I am gonna sign out right now. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I will link below in a pinned comment everything that I talked about. Yeah, this is a great resource for me to refer to in case I have any questions that come up about what I use, because that is a very common question to have and you guys wanted this video. So, hi Luca. Yeah, you're being very, very noisy right now. So thank you guys for joining me today and hanging out. I hope you guys have a lovely day and I will see you in the next video. Bye.